first time I thought I might become a journalist, I remember I talked to the journalist father of a friend, and he was almost dismissive. He's like, okay, maybe you can cover social events, etc. And I was deeply offended, so much so that I still remember it to this day, but of course I never said anything to him. And since then, I've been a journalist for 18 years, and I've never covered social events. Since then, I've worked in North and South America, Europe, both eastern and western parts of it, and now in South Asia. People think being a female journalist in this region must be harder, but I think it's easier. You get more access. You have access to twice the population, because females in this region often feel uncomfortable talking to a man, but they feel okay talking to a woman. They open up, they invite you inside their homes, let you talk to their children. And also, when I'm out on the streets or in a public place, I think out of sheer courtesy, even men give me more access. So I'm loving being a female journalist in this region. In this region, particularly when I'm traveling, especially if it involves traveling outside of a big city or traveling alone at night, that can become an issue. Also, when I'm out on the street and I'm trying to interview someone, or if I'm trying to stand in front of the camera and do a piece to camera, I attract unwanted attention sometimes. There's been occasions when a lot of people have gathered and it became a security issue. So that's also part of the job. I also find that in this region, it's easier to interact with the common people. They're generous, they're open, they just want to share their story. But when I have to interact with men who think they're either rich or powerful, the politicians, the CEOs, businessmen in general, that's where I have to, a lot of the times, draw a line very gently, very politely, but professionally, and remind them that I'm not a woman, I'm a journalist, and I'm only there to work. And it's a very delicate balance, because you cannot offend these people. They're going to be your sources in future as well. So, and you need access. So I have to admit, this is still the most challenging part of my job, particularly in this region. In some cultures and in some countries, being a woman actually adds to my work, because there are cultural aspects that I have to always keep in mind, from what I'm wearing to how I'm behaving to where I'm going, and always keep an eye on who's around me. So, for example, when I'm working in Afghanistan, these cultural aspects almost magnify. I was doing these sets of stories on the Islamic State and its emergence in eastern Afghanistan. And the areas we were traveling in were so dangerous that we had to pretend not to be journalists, but just a regular Afghan family. I was pretending to be the wife of my cameraman, in a burqa, of course. And strange problems that you didn't anticipate ahead of time came up. So, for example, the biggest issue for me was I didn't speak Pashto, and therefore I couldn't be separated from my quote-unquote husband, and I couldn't use the bathroom. So I'd have to plan for it. Every night I'd drink like a gallon of water in 2 hours, and then all night long I'd go to the bathroom. And then the next morning, all day long till the evening, till we were back in the hotel, I could drink nothing, not a drop of water or tea or anything. I also found it very difficult that since I was the reporter/field producer, I could not be hands-on with my cameraman or my translator. I couldn't tell them, follow up with this question or get this shot, because, you know, I was the wife. So if I saw them missing out on something, I just had to bite my tongue and just stand there and just give them instructions ahead of time and just keep my fingers crossed that they followed them. On the flip side, I remember when I was in Ferguson in US covering the Black Lives Matter, I was the one who was hands-on, in charge, and my cameraman and my team depended on me to take care of everything. So every time we were in a crowd of protesters or riots broke out, I would be holding my cameraman, his jacket, from the back, making sure he didn't fall over and somebody didn't push him through. And this one time, the National Guard started tear gassing the crowd, and we were in the middle of the crowd, so he got a burst right on his face. And I remember he couldn't see anything, and I had to make sure that in all of that chaos and the crowd, he got to safety, and then I literally had to be his nurse and his caregiver. And then, there are other environments like Europe, when I was covering the migrant crisis, when I was the only female in a team of men. And we literally spent weeks working 20 to 22-hour days every single day, traveling together, working together, planning together. Every morning we literally lived in our car, because every morning we'd check out of the hotel. We wouldn't know where we were going or where we would end up that night, and then we'd crash in a hotel that night. And that's the kind of environment where you have to forget whether you're a man or a woman, you're just a journalist. That's what makes for a good team. So I remember this very talented female journalist in Pakistan who was having issues at work and didn't know how to deal with them. She felt like she had an insecure boss. She was in an all-male environment. There was office politics. She felt like being a woman put her at a disadvantage, and she couldn't figure out how to move through that environment without creating more ripples, so to speak. So I remember having multiple conversations with her in which we sat down, we thought of solutions, both short-term, medium term, and long-term. Her boss was making some unreasonable demands from her, so we tried to figure out how to deal with that without offending her boss. And then eventually we decided that the best path for her was, for the long term, to move from that environment to an environment that was more conducive and more encouraging for her personality. And that's what she did, and she moved on to a new place, and now she's very happy. I've never received formal mentoring, but I've been blessed with friends who were older than me all my life, who were there to just listen to my issues and remind me that I was not alone, that other people had gone through similar issues, and that, it happens in newsrooms all over. And sometimes just having a pair of ears, just someone listening to you, and just reminding you that this will pass, and actually giving you a bird's eye view of the situation, because you're stuck in the middle of it. You are feeling all these emotions and you can't see outside, your little bubble. And somebody comes and gives you this bigger picture, and all of a sudden things start falling into perspective. So I find mentoring extremely useful, extremely helpful, which is why I'm really looking forward to this, what we're trying to do here, formalizing the structure, allowing young women to come forward when they need help in a safe environment. I think this will be more helpful than any other training they can get anywhere. And I'm really looking forward to working with the Coalition for Women in Journalism in Pakistan particularly.